What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a very special edition of the Rock Fantasy Files. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the one and only irreplaceable Mr. Cliff Burton, as this Saturday coming up will mark 39 years
Wow.
since his tragic death. So, tonight, we're just going to kind of bullshit, talk about Cliff, talk about his influence, talk about his legacy, talk about the three Metallica albums that he was on. We're going to pick our favorite of the Metallica albums that he was on. We're going to pick our favorite Metallica songs that he played on. Maybe bullshit about the Cliff and Wall home video a little bit. And maybe if some of us ever got the chance to see him live or
Yep.
actually be lucky enough to meet him, we're going to talk about that too.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Tony Dio in the house. Of course, we have our esteemed host, Mr. Stephen Keeler, in the house from Rock Fantasy Records.
Thanks.
We've got Count Ralphus, our vampire historian supreme, in the house. We got Ovi from Norway. And we got my boy Carlo, bass player from Silence Equals Death and The Faded Line, and also guitar player for Gartlock, joining us for the first time.
Nice.
So,
Welcome.
I guess let's kick it off with like if any of you guys have seen him live. Let's go with Steven first. If you've seen him live or ever had the chance to meet
Yeah.
Cliff.
Okay. Well, the first time I saw Metallica was locally. It was on the Kill 'Em All tour. I saw them twice. I saw them at the State Theater in Port Jervis, New York, a building that no longer stands. It was an old movie theater that was doing some shows around then. It was Metallica, and I'm hazy on the openers. I'm sure Ralph probably knows them. But,
Overkill and your buddy Chris Cafferty.
oh, that's right. That's the one that Gaffrey
Anti played that show too. Yeah.
Auntie was opening up. I remember Chris Caffery being so young that he was there with his mom. He just lost his mom yesterday, so
saw
give a
that.
shout out to Mr. Caffrey, and
Yeah.
I'll wish him all the condolences and such.
Condolences,
I know
Chris.
he was taking care of his mom for many years, and spoke. I reached out to him today to wish him well and condolences and all that stuff. But yeah, so yeah, Caffrey opened up with Auntie. Of course, Caffrey going on from being this high school band to being in Sabotage and TSL and everything else. So very kind of historic night. And Overkill was there. What a killer show. Then I don't know, was it a few weeks later, a few days later, they played JB's Rock 3 in Middletown, New York. Got to see them there. I remember they had like a white pasture van with like a U-Haul trailer behind them. That's what they were towing around. And Ralph, do you remember who opened up at JB?
No, that I don't remember, but I have the actual date. It was 1/20/84. JB's Rock fan. JB's Rock 3. Here's the bootleg album, and it has Hudson Valley. It's got like a picture from it, and
wow, that's a picture from that actual gig.
I don't, I think it is. It looks like it is. You know how I would check is the Kill 'Em All box set. I didn't pull that out, but
yes.
That has the DVD of the JB Rock 3 show. But the weird thing about it is the audio goes out like halfway through, but they play the whole concert with no audio. But here's the audio.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't get that.
They didn't sync this album up with
what was in that box set was a DVD.
Yeah, the box set had a couple DVDs in there, and one of them was JB's Rock 3.
I always thought that was just an audio of it. I never knew there was a DVD.
Yeah,
the good thing it's not just an audio; it just be silent.
Wow. Yeah, it's so bizarre that they play the whole show, and it's still kind of interesting. But why wouldn't they even if they played the record along to it just to give it something to listen to?
Live from Chicago, 12th of August, 83. Live in Metro.
They didn't seek that out very well.
On Kill 'Em All, it has a JB Rock 3 DVDs.
I remember them like
No,
hanging out in
I'm
the parking lot.
holding the Kill 'Em All. I'm looking
I-
at it. It's from
I'm
Chicago,
positive.
not at Metro.
Yeah, keep looking. It's on there.
I was at
It's-
we were all hanging out in the parking lot with them. I had a buddy named Darren Rose that was
The
a
audio
local.
is here, but nothing
I guess
else.
I'll wait till Obi's done talking.
Yeah, the
It's-
live at the GBS is here, but it's the audio CD number 4.
Now the DVDs, it's on there. I'm positive. I've seen
Yeah, I
it.
thought it was audio only.
Yeah, it's audio
Oh.
only. The video is from Chicago, live at the Metro.
Well, anyhow, I guess
Might
I'll
be a
start
different,
talking again.
might be different, yeah.
Anyhow, so I can remember hanging out in the parking lot with them. I had a good friend of mine, Darren Rose. He was actually one of the guys that did one of my early logos for my store. He was hanging out with Metallica a lot and had something to do with doing a logo for them or doing some, I forget if it was he was doing doing something with them with the logo. They were doing some pen pal stuff with them, and they all hung out with them more than I did. I didn't get to hang out. My buddy Duke, who does my t-shirts and everything else, was there. Steve Levin was at that show. A lot of these guys I didn't even know. That we were all, 23 years old, whatever. What was it, 1984, Ralph?
Yeah, that's what it says on the album.
Yeah, I was
84.
23 then. Oh God, how many years ago was that? I'm fucking old now. But then so I saw him twice on the Kill 'Em All tour. Then I saw them on the Ride the Lightning tour also. And I also was at the event that Ralph has the poster behind him. Was that the Ride tour? Was that the Ride the Lightning?
Yeah, that was Lamore's Metallica, Wasp, and Armored Saint. But it also came to the Civic Center that tour too.
I did not see it at the Civic Center. I saw it at Lamore's. I took a bus trip with the folks from Rock and Roll Heaven North, Randy Risch, and of course Randy's dating Bobby from Overkill now, and we all with her parents put this thing together, and it was a bus trip. We got on down in Warwick, New York, and took the bus to Lemoore and went to that show in the city.
Well,
So
the
I saw
GB show is interesting too because all their
What's
gear
that?
got stolen, so they play it with Anthrax. It's Anthrax's guitars and all the equipment they use on that show from GB is Anthrax
yeah.
because they got stolen all their equipment from that white trailer you're talking about.
Yeah, well, there's an episode on the Rock Fantasy Files, if you go and search on Metallica, where I was Robin Mays, and it was in the beginning of the Rock Fantasy Files. If you guys want to listen to that a little bit, what Obi was talking about, there's a lot to that. There was a lot, and she had some people on that knew all about that, what was going on with that, their equipment was stolen and whatnot. But
so obviously the opening band was Anthrax.
What's that?
So obviously the opening band for GBs was Anthrax.
No, it wasn't though. It wasn't because I would have known that by now.
That wasn't the show I went to. Obi.
Yeah, Anthrax. They weren't on tour. It was just a show because they were living in New Jersey at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, Marcia,
just about it. Okay.
Yeah, they played a handful of shows. They weren't like on a tour yet, at that point.
Okay.
And Steve, that story you were just talking about, you had one of the guys that was in the Metallica tribute band, and their equipment got stolen.
Yes.
And Metallica found out about it and bought their equipment. I wasn't on that episode, but I remember the episode. Metallica put up the money for their equipment because they felt bad for it because it happened to them.
Yeah, we had a guy from the Old Bridge Militia that was on there, and we had Robin Mays, and I forget who was all on that episode. It was so long ago, but anyhow, before I lose all my memory here, I saw that tour on Ride the Lightning, and then I went to the Glens Falls Civic Center. It could be hazy. It could be another show I saw back then. I went to Glens Falls Civic Center, which was Ozzy Osbourne Ultimate Sin with Metallica opening up with the Master of Puppets tour.
Mm-hmm.
That was at the Glens Falls Civic Center, which is up in the foothill of the Adirondacks, up above Albany, New York. That for those that aren't watching that are from the New York area. And we, had my crew with me. Had Bud, who I was talking about earlier, Darren, had something to do with doing a logo for them, making it in the 3D or something. He was messing around with that. I remember that vaguely, and he We all hung out there and we're walking around the back. I don't know if anybody here has ever been to the Glens Falls Civic Center. It's right in downtown Glens Falls. It's Civic Center right in the center of town. And you walk down around and the buses around the back. We're walking down the hill and there we see Metallica walking and we're all like yelling at them. And we got our battle jackets on and everything else. And the only one that crossed the street to come to say hello to us was Cliff Burton.
Wow.
And he actually, I don't know where that is. I've been cleaning my house pretty extensively the last few weeks. I did not find my jacket. It's a Black Sabbath battle jacket, which I cut off, which is a Black Sabbath t-shirt that looks like the Flirting with Disaster album cover on it. So that was my thing. But I had Mustaine sign it back in the day, and Cliff Burton signed that coat. So I have that somewheres in my collection. Hopefully I'll find it because I was gonna go.
I gotta see.
I was gonna go bring it and hang it up at my shop. But yeah, it's we got to meet Cliff that day and bullshit with him. Of course, way before cell phones. We probably didn't even have a camera with us or anything else. You know, it was in the dark, dim ages of technology. So we got our autographs, t-shirts or jackets, whatever else. We got to hang out with them for a few minutes. And of course, we lost him not that long after that because I think we had tickets to see the Master of Puppets tour later on. And of course, he was in the tragic bus accident. So
It was the Kill 'Em All for One was with Raven and Exciter. That was the actual tour for the Kill 'Em All.
Okay.
I did not. They weren't at Rock 3.
No, that didn't happen at Rock 3.
That was more.
That was when they
being
toured. I
on
don't.
the road by
probably-
themselves. I think putting up.
I think
shows.
they hit Lemore's. They might have hit Lemore's on that.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, I
don't
didn't
know.
hit that one. So those are the times I saw Metallica with Cliff. Of course, I went on to see Metallica a couple more times. I have not seen Metallica since 1991.
Wow.
If that's hard to believe, but I go to a ton of shows, but I've never found the interest for me to go back. And that's the way I feel. I saw them they were in Middletown 3 times. I saw them on the Kill 'Em All. Then they came back for Justice. They played the fairgrounds with the Cult opening. Then they came back, which I believe was the Black Album, right, Ralph? When they were with Suicidal Tendencies and Danzig.
Yep.
And that was the night of the OJ chase.
Huh.
And we were I was working a show after the event with Z-Rock and Rock Fantasy at the Sportland USA, which was a club in town. And I think I left during the encore because I had to get over there and I wanted to beat the traffic, and it was only a few minutes down the road. But when we got there, like everyone's watching TV of this Bronco going by. So we're way up subject, but we're still talking Metallica. And yeah, you guys can talk a little bit more. I'll come back on and give my picks or whatever for albums. I mean, I could give them right now, actually. My favorite Metallica album is from Ride the Lightning. Kill 'Em All is a close second, and I will go with Masters for third.
Okay.
In case I hop off and get tired, because I got a couple things to do before I wind down tonight.
What's a couple of your favorite songs off Lightning?
Oh, let me pull it up and take a look. It's been that kind of day today. Fight Fire with Fire is one, of course. I'm just going to pull it up and take a look. So you guys can chit chat for a second or something. I don't have no props with me tonight. I'm lame.
I was just thinking that I might be wrong, like Ovi was saying on that. I always thought that was a JB's Rock 3 video because it looks like it. Like
No, it isn't.
I was in that place, and I always thought the video it looked like JB's Rock 3, but I didn't really. I guess it was the audio.
Yeah, I
maybe
looked
that
it
was
up.
getting-
I didn't go into the other room to get the.
I didn't look it up
box,
after.
It's definitely audio.
But it does have audio drop from it.
The audio dropped, but I like if that was a video of them from there, someone like me might be in it.
I remember when I
never seen a
watched it,
video.
I thought it was JB's, and I was looking for Steve
I've
Levin all
seen,
the time because
I've seen,
Steve
we had
Levin said
videos
that he
from
was.
when they played the fairgrounds, of course.
Well, Steve Levin said that he was front row right in front of Kurt. So I remember looking at the
Mm.
video, but he
Huh.
looked different back
Maybe it's-
then. But I didn't see him.
of course.
So maybe that's what made me think maybe I was wrong on the.
Yeah, if you're
that
going with
being
Ride the
JB's.
Lightning, like Fight Fire with Fire, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Trapped Under Ice, Creeping Death, killer record. And I guess if you want me to talk about Kill 'Em All, I remember I drove up to Poughkeepsie to a place called Record City. This is before my record store opened. I opened the fall of '85, November. And I used to go to Record City in Poughkeepsie a lot, just drive up there, and that was like the place to go. It was like a little head shop and near the Chance. I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to go to Record City other than me. No.
Every time I went to the Chance, we would
Yeah,
make an
Crown
extra
Rapids,
hour
of
time
course.
to go
Yeah.
there, but mainly because we wanted to get whippets. They sold the whippets in the little
Oh,
machine.
yeah, they
so,
sold shit like that. They had
Yeah, we would do that.
patches, they had the rock patches, they had all the import records. So I remember going up sight unseen, seeing this album called Kill 'Em All, and I'm like, this looks pretty fucking heavy. And he and I freaking brought the record home. Of course, you couldn't listen to it. He got it home with it was vinyl. There was no internet. There was no Spotify. There was no fucking iTunes or any of that shit then, or YouTube. So you got home and I put this fucking record on, and I tell you what, the fucking song Motor Breath fucking blew my mind.
Hell yeah.
I mean, of course, Hit the Lights. I was like, what the? This thing is so fucking heavy. I just remember picking up the phone and calling my friends. You ever hear this record? You got to come over and listen to it. And yeah, No Remorse, Hit the Lights, Four Horsemen, Motor Breath to me was just fucking killer. And at the time, I think the only thing that I'd seen or listened to that was as heavy as that was probably Motorhead, because I saw Motorhead in '81, and I was familiar with them, seeing them at the Civic Center open up for Ozzy Osbourne. We'd heard the name Motorhead, but we didn't know who the fuck they were. We were standing on top of our chairs looking at the stage of these guys just blasting fucking music. So yeah, Kill 'Em All, and Master Puppets I would put third. It's a great record, but definitely would like the other two a little bit better. So Battery is great. The Master Puppets, Sanitarium School, Damage Incorporated, of course. And that's my story, I guess, pretty much. I'll hang out.
Nice.
Listen to what you guys got to say then.
Count Ralphus. Let's talk about your experiences seeing Metallica with Cliff.
All right. So yeah, I went to see him open up for Ozzy, Ultimate Sin Tour, Master of Puppets. And the first real band that I ever got to meet that I was a fan of. Like I met Brad Gillis from Night Ranger, but I wasn't like a big fan of him. He was at a laundromat by where we lived, and we met him. But this was a show I was going to. And a couple months earlier, we went to see Black Sabbath and Anthrax and Wasp at the Meadowlands. And my friends that went in one car, they seen where the tour buses were parked, and they went over there and they ended up hanging out with Anthrax. So like the next day in school, they were all bragging about it. I was like, oh man, that's amazing. Back then, we were little kids and 16-year-old kids, and they hung out with them, and I just thought that was amazing. So when we went to Metallica, we're like, yo, where was those buses parked? And they were like, oh, it's over here. And we went over after the show, and we knew we were at Metallica's bus. We could see them watching a TV of the show that they just played. And that show is recorded. I believe it's on the Ride the Lightning box set. I don't have that, but I think there's a DVD of them opening for Ozzy on the Ride the Lightning box set. But we could see him watching it like they were reviewing what they just played or something. And I had my friend got on my shoulders, and he kept like banging on the window, and a bouncer came out, and he's like, yo, just fucking chill for a few minutes. And he's like, they'll come out and say hello. And we were just like, oh wow. And so we just sat there for a little bit, and sure enough, they all came out, and they were drinking beers. Cliff was cool. Like I got my ticket stub signed, and I got there's one signature on the back. It's Kirk signed it on the back, so I have to get a better way to display this thing. But I just put an old Kill 'Em All like picture in there. But yeah, they were cool as hell. Cliff kind of just sitting back, really chill, like he just smoked a joint. And
Yeah.
same with James. James was kind of quiet too. Kurt was like really smiling and like happy to be meeting people, but Lars was like the spokesperson. He ran around to every single person and like talked to them, and he was like the real friendly one. And I had a pair of spikes that my friend let me borrow. I've told this story before a couple of times on this channel, but had a pair of spikes, and that's the first thing I got signed. And like as Lars was signing, he's like, "This is the heaviest thing we signed all month," or something like that. He thought it was so cool that he was signing spikes, but they weren't mine. And I was like, "Oh shit, I better get my ticket stub signed because this kid's gonna want his spikes back when I get back to school the next day." Some kid from school lent them to me, but then I was thinking I'll tell him that they took it, the bouncers took it, and I lost him. I'll give him the money for it or whatever. So I was going to keep the spikes, so I did keep the spikes. But a couple weeks later, I was playing basketball at our local like baseball field area there where they had a basketball court. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, can I wear your spikes while you're playing the game?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then when he was wearing them for a little bit, then he just put them on the bench. And then at the end of the playing and stuff, I just rode my bike home thinking that my friend had my spikes still. And I called him up when I got home. I was like, "Yo, you got those spikes, right?" He was like, "Oh, dude, I left them on the bench for you." I was like, "Oh, fuck." And I got my bike. It was like a mile and a half ride on my bike. Got to the baseball field, spikes were gone. So somebody in Scotchtown has a pair of spikes with 4 scribbled names on it, and they have no idea that they got all 4 of the original Metallica members on those spikes.
Son of
I
a
keep saying,
bitch.
I keep telling this story, so maybe one day somebody will be like, "Wait a second," and they'll have
Hey,
this
I've
fucking pair
got
of
that.
spikes with scribbles on it, and it'll be my fucking spikes. But luckily, I went back and got all of them signed. But that was my only time that I got to see him with Cliff Burton. And I had tickets to see him when he passed away. Like we had tickets; they were coming to the Civic Center
Yes,
with Metal Church,
with Metal Church, yeah.
and I'll never forget the day because I mean, I remember going to school and it was the beginning of the school year. And I just remember this asshole that fucking didn't like metal. He was fucking like all giddy about it. And he must have heard it on the radio or something, but we didn't know. And I remember Steve Levin's wife, I went to school with her. And I remember her and this other girl, they came in all dressed in black. They must have heard the night before. I didn't hear yet. And they were just like in mourning. And then I found out, and I was going to kill this guy that was like making fun of it. He thought it was funny. Like the dirtbag metalheads, like legend had passed away and stuff. And I was close to sucker punching him in the hallway, but I didn't. And it was, just like the whole rest of the day, I just remember going through school like, oh my God. And we had tickets. Like it was my first time having, it was the first band I ever met, but it was also the first band that I was a fan of where somebody died in the band. Like I wasn't old enough when Randy Rhoads died, and so this one like it hit really hard when he died. And got it the Cliff Burton Super 7 here.
Nice.
And I got I know James has read the book too, but I read the book right when it came out, To Live Is to Die, which is
Hell yeah.
which is you got a different version. This was I think this one maybe earlier because I got it right when it came out. But anyway,
Yeah, that looks like a first pressing.
that title to that it's a song from And Justice for All, that one song that he has writing credit for.
That's right.
And I got this other old book, Enter Night, biography of Metallica by Mick Wall. Really great in-depth book, and it talks about like every tour and everything up, but it only goes up to a certain time. And then I have another book that goes for the later career. But yeah, I got a ton of like cool stuff. I got this Metal Up Your Ass on vinyl. This one,
Nice.
I got that too. Yeah.
Masters of Metal. This is them in Tennessee, July 29th, 1986, opening up for Ozzy. This one, Deal With It at the Meadowlands, 4/21/86. This is the show where I met them and got that ticket stub signed. So that was fucking awesome to find a bootleg album of it. But I figured there'd be one that would exist because I know there was a video of it. And then I got
so that's the one with Ozzy too, right?
Yeah,
I might have went to both of those. Is that the one what's Ozzy? Is that the one where they were throwing all the seats with Ozzy?
I mean, I remember hearing people talk about it was like a mini riot, but I don't remember it as a kid. Like I just remember,
Yeah.
being so I was pretty young and early show for me. But I heard people talk about it. The Iron Maiden was the big riot, but then they made it like the Ozzy.
The one Ozzy one I went to there, literally people were cutting open the seats and taking the foam out of the seats and throwing them through the air.
Right.
And
I
I
got-
don't know if that was that one or it was the Bark at the Moon tour and because it was one of the between that and the Iron Maiden thing there, that was one of the reasons they banned
Yeah.
remember they banned alcohol there for a little
Yeah,
while.
they were both the same year, both those shows, the Somewhere in Time tour and that. I got this one, Paris, France, 1984.
Yeah.
How it could go into Europe. It got Cliff on the cover. Right on the
Wow,
cover,
that's
which is
cool.
You know, jump
In
the
France, you
fire,
say?
kill
Is
them
that his
all.
birthday? Isn't that Kirk's birthday? He had that when they were in France in 84 or 5. It's a famous
it's-
show because they play Trapped Under Ice.
Yeah, they do play Trapped Under Ice on it in '84. Yeah, that's probably what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
So here's another one, Ballroom Blitz, Lyceum Ballroom, London, 1984. Another cool old one. But one time I was in Rock Fantasy and I was going through the Metallica section and I found this and I was like, oh wow, I didn't know this was ever put on like a vinyl. But I got Cliff All, but
Oh, wow.
it turned out it wasn't a vinyl. It was
A laser disc.
Ha!
it was this
Laser
giant
disc.
it was this giant fucking CD. I broke
CD,
three
yeah.
CD players. I broke 3 CD players trying to play this thing.
Yeah.
That's a laser.
Laser disc. That's pretty freaking cool, man. Those
Once
things
I
are
realized-
very valuable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
once I
that's
realized
about
what it was,
That's
I was
about a
like,
$200
man.
piece, man.
Is it?
I got it for
Yeah.
like eight. I got it for like $8 or $9 at Rock Fantasy because it was before I think he checked eBay for everything to see what things are worth. And I
Wow.
just like
Yep.
Sometimes
I was like,
still don't.
nobody has a fucking laser disc player. I'll take this for $5. But I
You
just
ain't
knew
got-
Actually, I know a guy
You
who's
ain't got a
got one.
laser disc player there?
Chris Allo has one. He's always
Yeah, I'm
talking
sure
about
Allo does. Yeah.
it.
Do you remember? Do you remember that one? Did you ever get that? The Bay Area Thrashers, and they actually put this out, and it's got a barcode, and they were selling it in record stores, and then Metallica had it yanked.
What is it? The demo?
It's basically the demo, but it's somebody put crowd noise like it's a live show. It's just
Well, the Metal
it
Up
is-
Your Ass was kind of like that. It had the crowd like
That's one
live.
that
It
was
was
selling at a store, Tony?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. This came from like Camelot Music years ago.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
weird
this
looking
is-
cover.
this is something I got from Rock Fantasy. This is an official record store day, but it's an official
Oh,
No
that's
Life
right,
to
couple
Leather
years ago.
cassette.
Yep.
And I remember when I got it, it's funny how they wrote it in pen and everything. It looks like something that you would have taped back in
Yeah,
the
it
day.
looks
And
like a
It's copied from Lars's handwriting from the
Yeah.
original tapes.
it's awesome. I gotta see. I had one with like a fake cover from back in the day. That it was like one of those tape by tape ones. But Cliff
Mhm.
doesn't play on this. It's Ron McGoverney.
That's right.
But I remember right when I got home with this, like every store only had like 7 copies of it or something. And I remember thinking I should have bought every fucking one that Rock Fantasy had. Because I went home that day and they were already selling for $50 on eBay.
Oh yeah,
And
I
and
never
it was
got
the
one.
day the
Yeah.
day it came out. And I only paid like $10 or whatever it was for it. And I was like, shit, I knew that was gonna be worth something, but I should have.
Yeah, I remember that. How many years ago was that, James?
That's got to be like close to 10
10
years ago.
10. It's a
Was it
decade.
that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a bootleg vinyl of it out now too that they took it and made a vinyl, and the cover looks like the TDK cassette cover.
That's funny.
I do got this old bootleg back in the day. It's the Metal Up Your Ass one, but it was a Metallica. But it says 1981 demo, Metal Militia and Jump in the Fire and Phantom Lord. Oh, and going about the like discovering like Metallica. The first time I discovered, we were going on a class trip and I had these metalhead kids that I was friends with that stole like every cassette that came out. So they were just, if it looked like it was metal, they stole it, and they turned me on to like everything. But he would make mixtapes and stuff. So we were on a school trip and we had the box radio, the dirtbag metalheads all sat in the back of the bus and we cranked the box. And I remember hearing Jump in the Fire and Seek and Destroy, because they're the two songs he put on this compilation, and they're probably the catchiest two songs from Kill 'Em All. And I just was like, oh my god, what is this? Like I don't know if I would have been able to handle like hearing Motor Breath or Phantom Lord as the first thing I heard, but because it was those two songs, I was like, I gotta get this. And I believe I got like Kill 'Em All, and then like within a month I got Ride the Lightning. Like that's how close it was. Like I didn't get them on the same day, but it was like all of a sudden Ride the Lightning came out. And I remember wanting to go so bad. Ride the Lightning tour came right to the Civic Center, but I was like 14 years old, and it was Wasp and Armored Saint. And I knew one carload of kids that were going down, but it was like they had an older guy drive them, but I couldn't get in that car. So for the rest of that school year, they were either wear their Ride the Lightning shirt or their Wasp shirt. Throughout the whole school year, I had to be reminded that I couldn't get a ride to that show, and that killed me back then. So I was ready when Master Puppets. I was like, "We're getting a fucking ride to this," you know. A little older, it was a little easier getting rides to it, you know. But yeah, I mean, song wise, I mean, I love Metallica. They were like when I met them, they were like my favorite band at that moment, you know. To actually meet them, but yeah, that was on Master Puppets with like Battery, Damage Incorporated, Disposable Heroes. Thing that should not be. Ride the Lightning, the whole album. Ride the Lightning is my album by them. Something about that album. My second favorite would be Kill 'Em All. Both albums are just perfect albums. I love everything, even Fade to Black. I mean, it's not worth talking about like any of the songs because I love both of them. Oh, I meant to pull out the Metal Massacre too. I have that on vinyl with, from 1982 with Cliff Burton's band Trauma on there has a song, but I forgot to pull that out. I just see it in my notes now, and I forgot to pull it out. But yeah, that's pretty much like my story with them, you know.
Awesome. Tony Dio, did you ever get
Yes.
to see Metallica with Cliff?
I did. Originally, I went to the Ultimate Sin tour, and originally it was April 30th, Hampton Coliseum in Hampton, Virginia, and we skipped school. I think it was a Wednesday, and we drove there and pull up, and the marquee, it's out by the road, great big marquee sign said Ozzy Osbourne rescheduled August 3rd. Like, walk, walk, walk. You know, it's just like, oh, this sucks, you know. So we pull up in the parking lot. We ended up, Van Halen was coming in a few weeks. So we're like, oh, let's just trade the tickets in and get Van Halen tickets because they were coming, Van Hagar was coming. So that's what we ended up doing. And we traded tickets, got Van Halen tickets. And on the way out of the lot, the bootleg t-shirt guy was there. He didn't know the show was canceled either. So we ended up buying the bootleg shirt with Ultimate Sin on the front, Metallica Master of Puppets on the back, on the 3/4 jerseys, you know, and I kept that for years. And so when August rolled around, me and a buddy, I think it was a Sunday, and we were like, dude, let's go. You know, I wasn't working, I wasn't in school. Let's go. Let's just go. And we just got in the car and we went. Didn't have tickets or nothing. Went, got there, was not sold out, got tickets, got in, saw the show. It was amazing. I mean, and it was the last date of the tour. They took that date because when we saw them, when we went to see them the first time when it was canceled, I mean, I didn't know at the time, but they were in Richmond, Virginia the next day. I think that show got played. They played that. I mean, we didn't know. And we had to go back to school. We'd already skipped one day of school. So anyhow, it all panned out. It worked out great. It was the last date of the tour. They threw it on to the last date for Metallica, that is, with Ozzy. And it was August 3rd. That is replicated and preserved on the Master Puppets box set, which I do not own and I need, but it's so pricey I can't get it. I don't know why I didn't buy it when it first came out. I bought Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, but I didn't buy the Master one. Maybe because it was like $75 more or something. But I didn't know at the time that show was on it until later, and I was like, wow, I'd love to get that show because, like I said, I was there. And it was James's birthday, and James had broken his arm, had his arm in a cast. John Marshall, the guitar tech, played guitar, and Ozzy's crew started pranking Metallica since it was their last night, and like Ozzy and Jake and just they were all like wearing like towels over their heads and stuff, and then running out and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, shaving cream, birthday cake flying, Yeah, it was nuts. And so that was cool. I'm glad I got to see him. And I actually years and years later, I was at a guy's house. This is probably during the '90s, and we were just talking. It was went to visit somebody, and they had a roommate, and me and the roommate get talking, and we're talking about shows, and they're like, yeah, he said he used to live in Hampton, Virginia. I said, yeah, I used to go there and see shows all the time, the Coliseum, because did you see Ozzy Metallica? Like, yeah, he goes, I got something to show you. And he goes to his room and he comes back with a framed photo of him and Cliff.
Oh
And
wow.
there was a pond out back at Hampton Coliseum, this little pond, and people go out there and fishing. He walked around back, and Cliff was sitting back there fishing that day.
Oh
Wow.
shit.
He got that earlier that afternoon, so he got to meet him, got a photo with him. So that's pretty cool,
That's awesome.
And so yeah, so to get to see him one time, Phil Sushan, for the bass player from Ozzy, told me once, and we actually had him on Almost Human, and he told this basically the same story. I brought it up again that he told me that that Hampton show that they actually Sharon offered Metallica more dates for the tour, and they couldn't. They were already committed to going to Europe to do that run. And he
Oh
said,
man.
I've often wondered if they had accepted the offer and continued on the tour, would Cliff still be with us?
Of course.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
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 Wow, that's crazy.
But yeah, my favorite record is definitely Ride the Lightning. It's the first one I heard. I remember this guy I'd seen the name in magazines and stuff, but I still had never heard him. And a guy comes to school and he brings the Ride the Lightning cassette and he lets me borrow it. And Fight Fire with Fire is the first thing I heard from him. And I was like, wow, this is like faster and heavier than like Venom or Motorhead. Is what I was thinking at the time. Plus the next song kind of picks up and it's a little more catchy and stuff. But I loved it. I fell in love with it. And so that was the first thing I ever got by him. And then I bought Kill 'Em All not long after that. And then when Master was new, I bought that summer. Um, so that's that with that. But Master, love Master. I love Kill 'Em All, but Ride the Lightning is definitely my favorite from them. I mean, I love pretty much every song on here, including Escape, which a lot
Me
of people
too.
do
Yeah.
not like, but I love that song. I think it's great.
Hell yeah.
The album flows very well. It's the running order is perfect on this. The way they started out with super, when you got the opening acoustic piece, but then it's a super fast song, and then it ends with Call of the Cthulhu, which is great. It's a great way to end an album. And so we talked about when we found out when he died, or we just
We could
go
do that
into
in the next pass.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
We could
yeah.
do that in the next pass.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Tony Dio. Let's go to Carlo. First time here on the Rock Fantasy File. So you, me, and Ovi are all pretty much the same age in our mid 40s. So we really
Yep.
get to see Cliff.
Yeah, I was like 4 years old when he died, so
Yeah, I was 6.
Five.
So I didn't even know who Cliff was at that
I didn't know
point.
what
I didn't
I didn't
no idea what Metallica was until
I didn't know what a
really,
guitar was. Yeah, I was probably
yeah,
eating my
same shit.
boogers on the playground when he died. So
Yeah.
So we could just go into like that. Now you're also a bass player.
mhm.
Is Cliff a big influence on you? I know you and I both love Jason Newsted as well.
Yeah,
We've had plenty of love fests talking about Jason Newsted. But is Cliff a big influence on your playing?
yeah. I mean, Jason was the first bass player I ever noticed when the Black Album came out when I was like 9 or 10. But then I went back and bought the older shit, and then got into Cliff. I had Cliff 'Em All, watched that VHS, then DVD all the time. Yeah, I love Cliff. Way ahead of his time.
What's some of your favorite Cliff era songs?
Well, from Puppets, Disposable Heroes, Leper Messiah, Batteries Nasty, Damage Incorporated. That's probably the perfect album that's ever been created by four humans, in my opinion. Puppets.
Agreed.
Even though I'm a Justice guy, Puppets is probably like the perfect album. Then
What's some of your
probably
favorites off of Kill 'Em All?
Kill 'Em All. Hit the Lights, No Remorse, Phantom Lord. You know, the ones that haven't been beaten to death live. I like those.
True.
You know, Seek and Destroy, I've heard it a trillion times. Great song, but I like No Remorse and Phantom Lord. Metal Militia.
Fuck yeah, Metal Militia rules.
Yeah. Just
Ride
fast,
the
nasty.
Lightning.
Lightning, Escape, Trapped Under Ice. I know Hetfield hates Escape, but I think it's better than Boom the Bell Tolls, and he beats the shit out of that song. I'd rather hear
Same.
Escape. I'd rather hear Escape live than Creeping Death, Escape, Trapped Under Ice, Fade to Black.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about your bands. So I've mentioned at the beginning of the show, you're in the Faded Line, you're in Silence
Yep.
Equals Death, and you also play guitar in Gartlock.
Yeah.
So what's going on with your bands? What's going on with Faded Line right now?
Excuse me.
Uh-oh.
I'm losing you, Carlo. You're stuck.
Trapped
You're
in
stuck in
ice.
time.
What's that?
Last
I
week,
froze.
Yeah, you froze up.
You're freezing, buddy.
Trapped under ice. You trapped under ice.
I'm froze. I hear you.
He's freezing. He can't move at all. We can't hear his call.
Out.
Oh, this sucks. I'm trying to get him to promote his band for fucking ever on here.
and now
And
you
yeah.
can't
Well,
be-
go back around.
I hear you
Just
guys.
go back around. Maybe he'll get it. Maybe he'll get.
Can't
maybe
move at
he's
all.
got a
Clear.
bad. Yeah.
Oh, I
You sounded
you guys
clear
better
there
now.
at the end.
That's a lot better.
Fucking Wi-Fi.
Yeah, sounds good.
Did I freeze up again?
No, you sound
you're
good now.
you're kind of glitching a little bit.
What the fuck?
Yeah. You.
we had Wi-Fi nightmares last Wednesday, so
Mhm.
took Denny's and his daughter like 4 days to freaking splice our At the Gates episode back together.
Wow.
It's probably pouring out again. It's probably
Oh, yeah,
raining
it's
out
been coming-
again.
But yeah, it was coming down hard over here before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what's up with Faded Line right now?
Studio, just got to get vocals done. All the music is recorded and done.
Nice.
Then my other band, Silence Equals Death, we just did bass and drums in the studio. That's all done. Now the two guitar players just got to go down and do their tracks and vocals. So yeah, both bands in the studio right now.
Excellent.
And your
So
what's
drummer
your
from
social
media?
Faded,
Where
the
do we
drummer from
find-
Faded Line, he's in Murphy's Law, right?
Yes, Walter.
And
Mott's,
they're in the studio right now too. Right now, finally, after like I
yeah,
don't know how long, 20 years.
yeah. I think theirs is about done. I think I don't know when it's coming out. Yeah.
So where do we find you, Carlo? Where do we find Faded Line and Silence Equals Death on social media?
Oh, well, on Instagram, Faded Line Kills is that page. And Silence Equals Death is just Silence Equals Death. And
Excellent.
Faded Line's next show is October 11th at Lucky 13 in Brooklyn.
Awesome.
And then November 8th at Empire in Albany.
Awesome.
And then all Silence Equals Death has is really October 30th at Dingbats in New Jersey.
Sweet.
Because we're kind of using October to like finish recording while our drummer's going on the road with Biohazard to like tech for Danny Schuler. So he's going to be gone anyway. So that's when we're going to do
Oh,
our.
sweet.
So yeah.
Where
Yeah.
are those bands based out of? Like, where are you from?
Silence Equals Death is from New Jersey, but I live in Westchester. Faded Lines from upstate New York and Massachusetts. So every band I'm in is kind of scattered.
Yeah.
That's how it is, I guess, to find people to play with.
So you guys, Faded Line just put out a really cool video back in August of you guys jamming Punishment from Biohazard.
Oh yeah.
And then lo and behold, Danny Schuler from Biohazard comes up on stage and
Yep.
jams with you guys.
Yep.
That's pretty badass. Go check
Yeah,
that out on
that's awesome.
YouTube if you haven't seen that.
Yep. Faded Line Punishment, type in, that'll be there.
Fucking awesome. Cool, man. Thanks for hanging. It's great
Yeah,
to
man.
finally have you on here and
I know,
talk
yeah.
about your bands and stuff. I've been wanting to get you on here for a long time. You and I have been friends for fucking ever.
Yeah, 20 plus years, yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. Ovi.
Yeah.
So again, you haven't seen Metallica with Cliff, but I guarantee that you have your favorite Cliff era songs. And what's your favorite Cliff era album?
Yeah, that's easy for me. That's the favorite album is Ride Lightning. It's their most. I think reason why I think it's their best album because it's like the story I've told before. They were on tour here in Europe. They got cancelled because of lack of ticket sales, so they got rushed into studio to record Ride Lightning. But I think that frustration and that pressure just fused Ride the Lightning to the anger it has and to the how furious guitar and everything is on it. I believe if they haven't had that pressure or haven't had kind of like the anger and stuff, I'm wondering how Ride Lightning would have turned out when if they have recorded it later when they were supposed to. So that's kind of interesting. So I think that's why Ride Lightning is so special. Favorite songs is Ride Lightning and Call of Cthulhu, of course, and Escape. My second favorite would be Master of Puppets. Um, it's just the sound on Master of Puppets. It's such a great sound. It's recorded so great. I could not know how to explain it, but it's just the atmosphere. It's a feeling when you listen to that album that has never been catched before or after. It's such a special sound to it. Favorite songs, I would say, is Disposable Heroes, and my favorite is The Thing That Should Not Be, and Damage Inc. is a winner. Kill 'Em All is kind of interesting since it was called Metal Up Your Ass, and Cliff Burton just said "Kill 'Em All," and that became the album title. So that's Cliff's doing. That's why this album's called Cliff 'Em All, but everybody knows this probably. That's Metallica fan. As for favorite songs, I would say No Remorse, Metal Militia, and probably Anesthesia Pulling Teeth, because it's such a cool thing. Because I don't believe there was done anything similar to it before.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's amazing.
Man,
I mean,
Man of War. Joey
we had
DeMaio had that solo. The what is it called?
Black
Black Arrow.
Arrow.
Yeah, Black Arrows. That they had that.
Yeah,
on
well,
the
yeah,
bass.
and he
That's
had
the only
done
other
the,
one
he
I
had
could
done
think of.
he had done Williams' Tale on the first album, which was like 81. But I mean, we had Geezer Butler did a few bass solo pieces like at the beginning of, basically NIB, but nothing sounds like what Cliff Burton accomplished
Oh,
with
yeah.
that below, man. It's like, it's he's a bass with a wah pedal with just a lot of reverb on it.
Kind of inspiration. His favorite bass player was the bass player for Blue Oyster Cult, and the Blue Oyster Cult, he did bass solos back in the 70s that are so cool, but they don't have the same rawness as Cliff done because of the way Cliff plays.
Yeah. I mean,
But
that's
you
just a cool piece, the way it goes into the drums come in and then it just kind of, it's just killer, man. Then it goes into Whiplash. So it's great.
if you
Oh,
look up Blue Oyster Cult probably the 76 tour and you go to the bass solo, he has a yellow bass, but that bass solo is so cool. So I understand why Cliff Burton always had the Blue Oyster Cult t-shirt or thing on because it
Mm-hmm.
was like,
Huge fan. Yep.
oh yeah, absolutely. So I guess that leaves me. And
mhm.
once again, I was not old enough to know who Cliff was or even who Metallica was.
You were eating your boogers too.
I was eating boogers too and trying to look up girls' skirts on the playground. And I didn't really get into Metallica until the Black Album. But
Me
then
too.
not long after that is when a buddy of mine who was teaching me how to play guitar showed me all the thrash era stuff. And it really blew my mind. I couldn't believe it was the same band. And a big part of that was Cliff in there just standing out on the bass and just being awesome. So my favorite Cliff era album is Master of Puppets. I agree with Carlo where I feel this is one of the best things that Four Humans ever created music wise.
Yep.
It's just, to me, it's a perfect album. It's a perfect thrash album. It's a perfect heavy metal album. There's nothing on this that's skippable. There's nothing on it to me. Even as much as you've heard Master of Puppets, the song, through the years, especially lately since it got popular with that Stranger Things show, it's still a fantastic song. And I never
Yeah.
want to skip past it because all the riffs are so devastating in it. My favorite tracks off this would definitely be Disposable Heroes is one of the top ones. That was the first song I heard off this because when my buddy handed me the tape and said to go downstairs and listen to it, it was queued up for side two. And it was, I literally had never heard anything that tight and that fast and just that brutal. Like James Hetfield almost sounds like a drill sergeant on it. It's so good,
Yeah.
so tight. And Cliff was just so good at not overplaying, where he was all right, he's noticeable in the mix where he needs to be, and he stands out when he has to, but he also had, he didn't have so big of an ego where he had to be heard all the time. So he would just kind of, just jam when he needed to jam. And it's like, all right, the bass doesn't have to stand out here. I just got to go along with the riffs. And he was just cool about that. Speaking of where he stands out, Orion is my favorite Metallica song of all time. And ironically, it has no lyrics on it. I was lucky to be able to see them do that live last year when I went up to Boston and saw them in Foxborough. But it was amazing seeing that live, and they do a great job. Rob does a fantastic job. I love him on bass, and James always shouts out Cliff at the end of it. It's fantastic. And I really believe that the thing that should not be is kind of the sleeper track on here. It's a great, slow,
Love it.
sludgy, heavy
Yeah.
song.
Yeah, so heavy. Yeah.
So good. My second favorite would be Kill 'Em All. And this was one that I got this not long after getting Master of Puppets. And just the anger in this album and how it's just a non-stop thrasher pretty much all the way through. Just one of those albums that came into my life at the perfect moment. And it's still, I love every second of this, even when it's played out as Seek and Destroy is. Metal Militia is so great. No Remorse has always been one of my top favorites on this. And Whiplash, just so good. Classic blueprint for thrash metal right here. I always felt out of the big four with the debut albums, this is the most thrash of all the big four's debut albums, in my personal opinion. People might chime in and say, no, it's Slayer. People might chime in and say, no, it's Anthrax. I really feel like Metallica's debut is the most quote unquote definable thrash album of the big four debut thrash records. Just my opinion. And my third favorite, of course, is Ride the Lightning. And it's only my third favorite because one of them's got to be number three. Nothing bad about it. Fantastic album. I love the contrast lyrically of Fade to Black, which is all, it's a bummer, man. It's like, I don't want to go on. Life sucks. This is terrible. And then you go to Escape, which is the complete opposite of that. It's, this is, life sucks, but I'm going to put my head down and get through it, And I also feel like, yes, I would definitely rather hear Metallica do Escape live than For Whom the Bell Tolls for the 1.5 time. Absolutely. And another big one on here for me is Call of Cthulhu, man. I love when Metallica does instrumentals because they're always so epic. They're always so good. So yeah, that's my three, and that's my favorite songs from the
You
three.
sleeping, babe?
First time I heard Call of Cthulhu live was ironically in Sweden.
Oh, that's awesome. So Tony, I totally forgot what you wanted what you said you wanted to do on the second pass around.
Oh, I was like, we could just talk about when we found out about it.
Oh, when you found out about
Yeah.
it passing
Yeah, I mean,
away.
you guys were too small, I guess, too young,
Yeah.
but I remember exactly where I was. And
Okay.
so I had I had a new friend at school. We had started hanging out that year when or a few months before that or whatever, before school kicked in, because it was like September or whatever. And he was a big Metallica fan, and because we wore Metallica t-shirts. Nobody had Metallica t-shirts, only just a few people. Because I remember people coming up and going, "Who is Metallica?" They'd see your shirt, and but I remember coming home from school and I had MTV on. They used to have something that used to come on in the afternoon, like the Power Hour or something. It would be, around 4 or 5 o'clock. They'd show some metal videos. And I can't remember if it was during that or maybe right after that. They did MTV News and they came on and said Metallica bassist Cliff Burton was killed in a bus accident. And I just got quiet. And I was talking to this guy on the phone. He had called me about we're going to get together and do something. And he goes, who died? And I went, Cliff Burton. And he goes, no, really, who died? And I said, Cliff Burton. And he's just like, got really quiet. It's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, they just said it on MTV. He died in a bus crash. So, it just bummed me out, And when I went back to school, I was actually painted a lot in art class. So I was painting a Metallica picture at school because Metallica was my favorite band at the time. And I'm trying to get this where we don't get a glare on it so much. So I've got the 4 members in each corner, and I've got the Ride the Lightning chair here, and I've got a Master of Puppets stuff and crosses. This used to have the Kill 'Em All hammer in the hand, and I just took it out and I put Cliff's face in the middle as a tribute, and that's the way I finished it. And this actually hung in our school office.
Wow.
Anybody that walked
Sick.
in our high school was probably wondering what the hell they were teaching there, because they had this hanging up. And my friend, who I was saying that was on the phone with me when I heard about Cliff's death, he drew pictures. He was a pretty good artist, and he drew an Ozzy picture. But his picture, the Ozzy painting, the Ozzy drawing that he did in black and white, was the famous photo. I don't know if you ever remember the picture of Ozzy with the lawn jockey, which is like totally looked at as racist nowadays. But he drew that picture, and it was hanging in the school office, and this next to this, you know. So, but I remember a kid coming to me one time and said, "You think you're funny?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, that picture that you've got that you drew, it's Jesus with a cigarette in his mouth." And I was like, "That's not Jesus, dude. That's Cliff Burton. Who's Cliff Burton?"
Yo, this whole time you're doing the episode, I could see it behind you, and I thought it was a picture of you with a
It
cigarette.
looks like, yeah, it looks like Tony
Like
Diaz.
I thought it was. I
Yeah.
was like, he drew a big poster of himself in the background.
Yeah, I could see that. But I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest now. When I was drawing this, you got to think 1986, Metallica was just starting to get into mainstream rock magazines. I wasn't buying zines, and I wasn't even buying Kerrang at the time. But I was only getting Circus, Hit Parader, like Rock Scene, Faces, stuff like that. And if I remember right, Circus was like really the only, all Circus's photos were pretty much live shots. If you guys ever remember those mags, Hit Parader had a lot of posed professional shots they would get from like Mark Weiss and stuff like that. But I remember seeing your friend Frank White's name a lot
Oh,
in
yeah.
Circus magazine back in the day for
Oh,
live
yeah.
shots. And so I used live shots to do this. And I think I had 1 or 2 pictures of Cliff actually posed, and there was one he had a cigarette in his mouth, and that's what I used for the face. But yeah, and I remember Cliff 'Em All coming out,
Yeah.
and I have it on DVD here, but originally I had the VHS, and I didn't even own a VHS player, and I went out and bought that. I remember I bought that, and I bought Kiss Exposed, and I would go to friends' houses that had a VCR and watch it. I didn't actually get a VCR until I think the Christmas of '87, maybe. Um, so and so I had my own or whatever. But yeah, this was so cool to watch back in the day, and I remember watching it religiously, where I can almost just quote, the stuff that's said in there. We all love the scene of Cliff smoking the pot and talking about taxed and tariffed and all that.
Yeah.
Classic,
Crystal
classic
Bled.
Cliff Burton. Yeah, just
What's your
funny
favorite
as hell.
performance off that?
My favorite performance is the For Whom the Bell Tolls from the Day on the Green, because it's right on Cliff. Whoops, there we go. Not the beer over, but whatever. But Cliff's I'm talking about, and Cliff jumped down off the shelf here. But anyhow, wow, made a mess. But anyhow, yeah, the camera's right on Cliff. And you remember, you guys have watched it, his hand, the way he's beating the bass, and he's doing like the horns and all that way he's playing. God, it's so cool.
And his fucking head is nonstop. That head is
and he does that
nonstop with the hair.
eyes, and he's just
That was the
to this
ultimate
mystery.
headbanging scene ever, right there. That was the ultimate headbanger.
So
when
more of that footage came out on the DVD that was included in the Ride of the Lightning box set, that was awesome to see, because I'd never seen anything but that one clip. And I guess the whole thing wasn't filmed. They only filmed a little bit, but they released what they had. And that's just amazing to watch.
Awesome.
Definitely my favorite.
I got that old poster. Remember the old poster that came out for the Day on the Green? And it was kind of like
I have it.
pictures.
I have it on the ceiling above my head. It's actually up. It's just shot of Lars looking back at the crowd, and it's got the individual shots. Because the James shots not from that show. It's like from a indoor place, because you can see lights behind him. He's actually playing. He's playing a Flying V as well. By then he had switched to the Explorer. Yeah,
I still have mine, but it's so fucked up, because I used to, every time I got a new poster, I had to change all the posters in my room, so they just got ripped smaller, and I'd be cutting them and trying to figure. And mine's like not worth shit no more, but I still have it.
Yeah, mine's beat up in the corners, but it's still hanging in there. Yeah.
Steven, where were you, and what were you doing when you found out Cliff died?
I had to get a towel.
I really don't remember, to tell you the truth. I'm a horrible guest for that. I don't really remember what I was doing that day. I remember finding out about it and being devastated about it. And he was a cool guy in the band, because he was the guy that crossed the street to come hang out with us.
Right.
And I still don't think that Metallica is the same band without him. But
no, not at all.
They're huge, they're immense, they're popular, but things change.
Have you guys ever thought about how things would be if Cliff had stayed alive and went on with the band, and all the rumors about them, what if moments, all the rumors about they were going to fire Lars when they got home from that tour.
Wow.
Yeah,
that if happened, because that brought them together more than anything.
Yeah,
I mean, it would have definitely changed history in a lot of ways.
Yeah. What do you think? You think they would have stayed heavier? You think they would have went the commercial route? I mean, how do you know? How do you guys?
I don't see the Black Album happening like that with Cliff.
Not the Injustice for All either.
It's really hard to think about.
That would have been based on Injustice for All.
Oh yeah, they definitely would have been
based on Injustice for sure.
He had his Misfits influences, but then the Blue Oyster Cult influences. He loved Leonard Skinner, so who knows where he would have taken things. But it would have. It's really it's one of those what ifs forever. Who knows? But I think it would have stayed on path for a few albums. But at this point, if they were still going, who the fuck knows what they would be doing? But I think it definitely would have been better. They definitely.
We could definitely say that if he had if he had lived and the accident hadn't happened, they probably would have had a different drummer and would have continued on.
He
Maybe.
definitely wouldn't have fucking cut his hair for load and had worn mascara and bullshit like that. He definitely would not. He would have been not part of that.
Lars would have joined Diamond Head, and they would have became something.
Man, man, I tell you, like, to me, it was like Metallica were our fucking heroes. And then I still remember, even after the Black Album, I mean, I thought the Black Album was a decent album. I know some purists are going to hate me for it, but when they showed up, I remember we were all hanging out at my buddy's house playing foosball, drinking beer, partying, and we were excited because like Metallica was going to be on a fucking award show, and they showed up on that award show, and we're like, "What the fuck? They look like U2," and they had fucking bananas in their fucking pockets, and I'm like, "What the fuck happened to our metal heroes here?"
Yeah,
and that was Load era.
That was a devastating moment, and I've heard you talk about that story so many times, so I know that really that was like the end for you.
And then we were like, okay,
you bring that up a bunch.
I remember getting the Load record in the store, the CD, and I was there with I think it was Christine Zawoski, worked for me at the time. We literally fucking put it in there, and we played it like once or twice, and we took it out and we snapped it in our hands and threw it into the fucking street.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
that happened. That happened with a friend of mine when Saint Anger came out. I remember he said,
Saint Anger.
He said, "Did you hear the new Metallica?" And I was like, "No." And he reaches in his car and he hands it to me. He goes, "Here, you can have it. I never want to hear it again."
How about Lulu? I actually found a person that liked Lulu the other day.
I know one person that likes
Lulu is really a Lou Reed album.
That's true.
And Metallica playing on it.
That's
a
true.
friend of mine was in the store the other day, and he's like, like this dude from Super Always, is a local band around here, likes Lulu. So John works at the bagel shop that I go to a lot, and I'm like, John, I heard something very fucking disturbing about you. And he's like, looks at me like, huh? I said, I heard you like Lulu. He goes, yeah, I like Lulu. I'm like, okay.
Whatever drugs is on, give me some.
Actually, no, don't give me that. No,
don't.
No.
Yeah.
I knew somebody who liked that album, and I was driving him around one time, and he made me listen to the whole thing. So I did like sit through it once, and I remember thinking like the music wasn't that bad, like, and it was like this weird experiment, but it just didn't seem to work.
Yeah, it was
and
definitely
it shouldn't
weird.
have been considered like a Metallica album or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
They should have just gave it. They should have called the whole like project like Poo Poo instead of the Lulu,
Yeah.
and then it could have been something different. And I think people would have accepted it more. But you put a Metallica name on that, and
I
that's
wonder
where
how
that's
many
because-
copies of that fucking album are sitting around, never opened. It did not sell well for me.
Because there was really good deluxe editions of that album. I mean, it was like the one you put posters in the can, and there was like they really put a lot of money into that release.
There has to be unopened copies sitting somewhere in a warehouse.
Oh yeah, there's a warehouse full of them.
Lulu.
It's the only one I don't own. It's the only one I don't
They
own.
put out decent music now. I think the last album or two are decent.
The last 3 albums are fucking fantastic, but
fantastic.
a lot of
I wouldn't go that far, but
I would, and I feel
know
like a
you
lot
would.
of you old school guys don't want to give it the time of day because you've been fucked over by Load and Reload and Saint Anger.
The last album I thought was really good. I don't own it, but I thought it was really good. I got a digital copy of it.
I bought 72 as soon as it came out. My wife likes it. She loves Metallica, and I seen them on the I seen them on not Death Magnetic, the one after
Hardwired.
Yeah, I seen them on Hardwired, and I got Death Magnetic on vinyl, and I liked it. That was to me like they finally were trying to come back. I think they have a hard time finding where that that inspiration that they had back in the day, like almost like they
Sure.
forgot how to be metal. But I remember really liking Death Magnetic out of all the last three. That was the one that stood out to me, and I just wanted to be a fan because I was like with Steve when I just seen the pictures of them on the load and all that
Ugh.
stuff. I just was like, oh, this sucks. What the fuck? These were my heroes when I was a little kid, but I always kind of hated seeing them getting shit on all the time, and I wanted
Well,
them
then,
to come back.
the other
You know,
thing
and then
that-
Death
Yeah,
Magnetic.
The other
I
thing
was
that's
always
so-
rooting. I was rooting for him to come back.
Yeah,
you know,
me
I
too.
Yeah,
mean,
me too.
I've
Then
never
they
been
decided
a
to
hater.
do this festival called the Orion Fest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
that took
remember
a
the
big
press.
shit.
I remember the press conference for this originally, where this person's interviewing Lars, and it's like, "You're the most powerful metal band on the earth, and like, what other metal bands do you have on it?" And they're like, "Well, we want to be the only metal band on Orion Fest." And I'm like, "Really?" And they're like, we want the fans to listen and like the bands that we listen to. So they started booking like Arctic Monkeys. And then later on in this, as the tickets weren't selling, this was in Atlantic City, they reached out to someone and said, "Hey, who can we add?" So they added some metal bands to it. But originally, I like that attitude to me. It's just, I don't know. It's like,
Yeah,
why
I
would
get
you
it.
want to
Yeah.
like have everyone sit through all this other stuff to see you? But that's just like, what's their attitude? So that was another.
They did one
Sure.
cool thing on that show is they played Kill 'Em All like unannounced, like in the tent or
Yeah.
something, like with like, and people didn't know, and it was like they did the whole album, and then like later that night
But
they
the
did the full
original
set
plan
that they were
was for
doing.
them to not have any metal but them, so they could make you listen to Arctic Monkeys and whatever the hell.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's
yeah, it's just all
2012,
garbage.
2013.
I have a good friend of mine
Yeah.
that's like James that absolutely adores them and goes all over the place. He went to all the Orion Fests.
Damn.
My buddy Johnny, I was at the Slayer show with him the other night. We were hanging out.
The reason why Orion Fest was so great the first year it came out because they played Ride Lightning from start to finish, which was so people got to hear Trapped in Rise and Escape again.
Yeah.
There was one where they did the Black Album backwards.
Yeah, that's the year
Backwards.
after.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I remember seeing a bootleg of that.
I was really hoping
Yeah,
that when they
so
did
again, that would be cool.
the Big Four, that they would do the Memory Remains and have Dave Mustaine come up and do that part, la la la, because that's who I thought it was.
I didn't
The
even
first
go
time
to the Big Four.
first time that they premiered that song on the radio, it was a new song, new Metallica song, and I was like, wow, they got Dave Mustaine on backing vocals. I mean, I seriously thought that's who it was.
I was the only metalhead around that didn't go to the Big Four. I was like, I don't want to go to that. I like Slayer and Megadeth. I have no desire to see Anthrax. And
I went to the theater and saw it. Yeah, when they had, remember
I'm
they showed it in
Live
like
from
some
Sophia.
theaters.
I saw it too, the same satellite. But the cool thing I found out, was because I got into the cinema where they were going to show the whole thing, and I for some reason I entered the cinema in half an hour before it's supposed to open, and they were in the Slayer. They were doing the Slayer was going on in real time.
Oh, that's
So
pretty cool.
they backtracked it, so it started. So it wasn't really live
Okay.
because
Right.
it was going all over the world. So it was different time zones and stuff. So I discovered something interesting there that nobody was supposed to find out.
You know, you guys brought
So
up
that's four
before, like
times.
I'm
you
gonna
guys
hop
brought up
off here.
before. Oh, you're out, Steven?
Yeah, thanks for hosting tonight, James. And please,
I'll send
everybody,
it to
take
you.
a moment. If you like the channel, take a moment to hit subscribe, hit like, talk about your stuff in there. And I won't be here next week. I'm going to Sonata Arctica in New York City. So you guys are going to plan something for next Wednesday, and I should be
Okay.
back. We'll figure out something. I'll try to get back in the swing of things a little bit.
Cool.
Okay.
Oh, and
Cool, man.
James,
Have
you're
fun.
playing in Middletown on Saturday. So if guys are in
That's
there, come
right.
out. If you want to see James, come to Middletown, come to Clemson, drop by Rock Fantasy first, and you're there with
Last Pharaoh,
Last Pharaoh and Psycho Prism, who are amazing.
Psycho Prism, and the Sad Witch Collective.
It's a cheap night out, right? $15 to get in or something. So yeah,
I think like 10 or 15 bucks. Yeah, it's a cheap
you're in
night out.
Middletown, come out and support the show.
Please do.
All right.
Later, Steven.
Cool.
Good
See
night.
you, man. Have a
So
good one.
Tony,
man.
you had mentioned earlier, do we think Metallica would have gone through down the same trajectory had Cliff lived? Don't
No
forget
way.
that Cliff was a big fan of REM.
Yeah, he
So
was.
when you
But I
look at
think,
something like Load and Reload, man, that's heavy compared to what REM has done.
oh yeah, he liked a lot of different stuff. But I just don't see him selling out as much as they did with if he had stayed alive.
Well,
Do
They
you
might have
think though?
experimented it a little bit.
Do you
Here's the
think
thing, though,
though
with
that
Cliff.
they really sold out?
They
Yeah.
just fucking went retarded. They just got retarded with their like
Retarded.
they had like the ultimate image, it was the no image, and it's like, oh wait, now we're gonna try to be like other bands. They were fucking leaders. Why would they
Yeah.
do something why would they fucking paint their fingernails black and do stuff that Marilyn Manson and all these other fucking shitty bands
Mascara
do?
and all that.
It
Yeah.
just made no sense. And that's something that Cliff would have never done. I just can't picture him ever cutting his hair or trying to have a new style. Guy was wearing bell bottoms when that wasn't fucking cool. He was like a
True.
product of the fucking late 60s and the early 70s. He was born 8 years before me, but he was born on February 10th. I share a birthday with him. So he's like him and Lon Chaney Jr. are my two favorite people that have my birthday.
Awesome.
But that's the thing that I think, like selling out. I mean, they didn't have to sell out. They were billion or millionaires. They didn't need to sell out, but they just kind of jumped on fucking trends. And even when you're talking about that Orion thing, where it's like, oh, we're gonna get this band on and this band, and it just totally fucking ignore their past and all the metal bands that like. Why wasn't Merciful Fate on there? Why wasn't all these bands they worshipped when they were young? They could have had a few of those bands on there. They didn't give any of those bands tours or anything like that. They just went, and even like all the bands they were touring with at the time, it's like whatever the big new trendy band was, that's who they wanted, and they still do that shit today.
Well, in that situation, I think a lot of times comes into play the promoters step in and say, we want to add these bands on because
when you're
they'll pull a
Metallica
different-
level,
you don't need it.
have to deal with any of that shit. They could just
That's the
fucking
thing.
say who they
Metallica
want.
doesn't. Yeah, they don't
Yeah,
need.
there's no. I can see that with
Five Finger Death
lower level.
Punch.
Yeah, lower level bands. They have no choice. Okay, we want to promote. The promoters want this band and this band. They're okay, But when you're at that level, you fucking should choose who the fuck you really want. I mean,
they did take out some cool bands on the Load and Reload tours and stuff. They were still bringing out metal bands then. I mean, they had
Steve.
COC out with them, which was Pepper was a friend of James, so they brought them out. That was really cool. And I think Trouble might have done some shows with them and stuff. But
Yep.
yeah, it got all crazy there during the '90s, and I wonder, I think the Black Album put them over the top, and they didn't really need anything after that. I think they could have continued on, but I wonder if they would have started burning out if they hadn't made the changes in a way too, because bands kind of can be on top and they kind of start coming back down again. But I don't know. I kind of feel like they would have just stayed if they kept doing records like the Black Album, just stayed in that cycle. I think they could have just kept that sound going and been fine with it.
You can't really think of any band that's been around as long as them that has like that perfect career where they don't have the peaks and valleys. Like I mean, Slayer had a pretty good run, but a lot of the bands from that era and stuff, there's not many that had like a solid run where, they didn't change or anything.
Yeah, well, you take somebody like AC/DC, one of the biggest bands in the world. They never changed their sound. They never changed their look. They always and they just kept right on filling stadiums. But you got to think after For Those About to Rock and Flick of the Switch didn't sell as well. Next album, every album went platinum, but they weren't like double, triple platinum stuff. And but then the Razor's Edge comes out, which has an anniversary today. 35 years, and that album was like huge. I mean, it was back to almost like Back in Black status, I mean, Thunderstruck's one of the biggest songs in the world now, you know. And that,
Yeah, because
but
Walter has gotten back from rehab and
they haven't had a hit. They haven't had a hit record since that record. 35 years. None of the other albums have done what that one did. Some of them may have went platinum, but hey,
True.
they keep doing what they're doing, and they're playing freaking stadiums.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
they're still in
people.
jeans and t-shirts, and Angus is still wearing the schoolboy outfit,
Mhm.
and they're 80.
Yeah.
Sodom is the one band. Sodom is the one band that I can think of that had just a nonstop, consistent career of good albums. They're not all like total classics, but they never sold out, never, and they had tons of member changes and stuff. So they never toured like the way Metallica or bands like that did, but they had like the most consistent run that I can think of from a band that comes from way back then. Like even Destruction had their few like missteps where they put out these weird albums when Schmier left and stuff. There's not many
Crack
bands
Brain.
that I could think of like that just have that solid discography, you know. So
Yeah,
who
when you're
knows?
talking
I
from the
just think,
thrash era, yeah.
yeah, I think with Cliff, I don't think it would. If anything, he might have just like went and did a different project if they decided they want to be the trendy load kind of band, you know. I think music wise, he might not have hated that stuff. I mean, that would have come off a lot different if they just had the same look that they had, you know, and if they didn't try to do the fashion trend. That the fashion part of it, I think, was worse than the actual music. The music's not the
Yeah, I
worst thing
agree.
out
I
there,
agree.
you know.
The look was just so shocking, you know.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, who knows? Like maybe what you said, maybe Cliff would have joined Blue Oyster Cult.
I was thinking that Blue Oyster Cult would have done a many tours with them. Like instead of Five Finger Death Punch, you'd have Blue Oyster Cult
Yeah,
opening and stuff like that, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah,
see, to
definitely.
me,
Well,
music,
well, you know, and like we said, Lars wouldn't be in the band anymore, so he'd be in Diamond Head, and they'd be touring with him.
there you go. Yeah, to me, like I get what you're saying about the image. The image was rough in that era, but musically, I feel like Load really isn't all that far removed from the Black Album.
Yeah, it's a
It's not.
continuation.
Slow
It's
It's
a
and
not.
dark and
continuation.
bluesy and
Yeah.
Yeah.
big Danzig influence and Corrosion of Conformity influence and
Yeah, it was the image. The image
Skinner
is
shit.
just what was so shocking about it. Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
the
when
look.
when
Yeah.
when the Black Album came out, it was I mean, a lot of us were still on board. Like we went through Injustice, you know, Cliff is gone, but we still think Injustice is good. But for like me, I was like really getting into like more like thrashing bands and heavier stuff that was kind of pushing, but we still loved Metallica because they were the Godfather. Like you said, the defining band of thrash before, and I agree with that. Kill 'Em All is the album because it came out first, and everybody else kind of like Show No Mercy was very shortly behind that. But that Kill 'Em All is the defining moment of here's a new movement, you know. So I totally agree with that. And when the Black Album came out, I remember getting it right away and just being like, oh, what is this kind of, you know, but kind of getting into it a little bit after a couple listens, but I just moved on right away because there was other stuff out there. But I did see them twice on that tour, and I thought they were great, you know. But I at the time you could see something was changing. And now they was I would have still been on board the next album, but it was the image that's where they were like put it. They went over the line with the
Yeah.
image, and that's
Yeah.
where things were just like I couldn't even it wasn't until years later that I even got those. I didn't even get those albums. There was a neighbor of mine down the road here one day. He just had a table of CDs. He must have like converted everything to MP3s or whatever. And he just had this fucking table of like 100 CDs for free. Just said free. And I just went over. I took every one of them without looking at it. I wasn't like picking through them. I just seen this free side. I figured I'll use the cases if anything, because I'm always breaking my cases when I'm drunk and stuff. So I'll just fucking take them for the cases. But it was like the Nirvana albums and the Alice in Chains, and it had those Metallica albums on there, and just a whole bunch of crap that I never would have bought, you know. And it was great, you know, to get it all finally. I gave them a listen. I was like, you know, this ain't as bad as if I'm not looking at the album cover or the back of the cover or whatever. It's not as bad, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Well, the problem or that deal, I think, is because Cliff Burton, he was classically trained, so he was really good at his instrument. He had a vision with the
was.
songs he made. So if you look at Kill 'Em All, you look at Ride the Lightning, you got Fade to Black, you got Call of Cthulhu. On Master of Puppets, they are on a evolving tour.
Yes.
So I believe Cliff forced the rest of the people to actually play their instruments like the best they could because
Definitely.
he had so much vision and stuff. So I think probably they would probably calm down within the next couple of albums. Not in the way they did, but I think Cliff would have structured the transformation, if you can put it that way, to a much better place. And we would never have problems with Bob Rock, and also with problem with Justice. They ended on Electro Records. They weren't on a little label anymore. They were doing promos on TV. They were doing a lot of stuff they didn't do before Cliff, before Cliff was still with them. So
You
I
got
think
you
they
got to
lost their
remember though with Kill 'Em All though is Cliff didn't really write anything. He's on anesthesia and
That's
he
right.
makes the songs tighter and stuff, but he's not on No Life to Leather. And like 7 of the songs on here all make Cliff 'Em All. I mean Kill 'Em All. But he didn't have
That's
really
what I
much to
mean.
do
He
with it.
did elevate them. Like
Oh
they
yeah, he
played
made
much
songs
better on
better.
Ride Lightning and on Master Puppets. Lars did do. He had to go into drum training. He had to be trained in drums by the drummer from Whiplash, I think. That trained him in. It was a good drummer that trained him in drums to make him better because Ride Lightning doesn't have very particularly what you call it intricate drums. The evolvement from Ride Lightning to Master Purpose with Lars is so big.
Yes.
Oh,
He
it
did
is totally.
so yeah, so it's like insane. So I think he knew that something was going on. So really did try to get better drums and kind of like was afraid of if I don't get better, I'm just gonna fall off the edge here and they're
He'd
gonna
only
just
been
go past
playing for
him.
a couple years before Kill 'Em All came out. He only had been playing like he learned he started once he found out he can get on the Metal Massacre record. He was like got his first drum set really. Like he
Yeah.
didn't
Mhm.
even have like his own drum set. He like learning just to be on it. But at the time there was such a new music that there was no like blueprint that you had to follow. It really wasn't until like Rain and Blood came out where people started going, "Oh, Lars can't even play," and blah blah blah. Like everybody started comparing everything to fucking Rain and Blood, and the whole style like had like a blueprint all of a sudden.
They
I
still
believe
do. Every time you go to YouTube and look at a live Metallica video, Lars sucks. Kirk sucks. Metallica's lame. It's every
uh,
fucking comment from somebody that's never picked up an instrument in their fucking life.
Yeah.
the drums and the bass they are together. So I believe Cliff was a lot of the reason why Lars wanted to get better. I believe Cliff is the reason why everybody else got better at their instruments. So
Agreed.
without him, one thing I don't understand though, they knew how he wrote things. I don't understand why they didn't try to study the same things he had studies to like get the feel of how he wrote things to like evolve themselves further. But it
Well,
seems like
those
Not
they
guys,
just
those
everybody's
guys considered themselves to be the more of the songwriters, and really, what they weren't like thinking that Cliff was the main songwriter, and he wasn't. He contributed to the songs and stuff, but he wasn't the main songwriter.
Cliff
I
showed
think
them a
people
lot
have
of
become
shit. Like
more and
he
more.
taught them about dynamics and
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
he bring them to the next
octaves and
level.
all that kind of shit.
That's
Yeah.
where you hear the difference from Kill 'Em All. It's like a raw, straightforward, and talking about like Lars's drums. It's fun as hell listening to Lars's drums on that. He's got those real long rolls, and
Yeah.
it's just fun as hell. Like you want to tap the table while you're listening to that. It's great headbanging, straightforward stuff. But yeah, the next album where Cliff is more involved with them, you can hear that they level up a bit, and they're
Right.
definitely being more thought about how they're gonna make these songs work and stuff.
Yeah. Right from the very beginning of Ride the Lightning, you hear that classical piece that
Mhm.
comes in, and that's all Cliff right there, man. He
Yep.
listened to Mozart and Beethoven and all that shit. He loved all that. So that's his direct influence right there. Those guys didn't know anything about playing like that before Cliff came around.
Because it was like, because we know the story with Cliff, because his brother died of a brain aneurysm when he was 16.
Yes.
And after that, Cliff started to play bass like 6 hours a day and
Yep.
do triads and baroque things that he got from his dad, like because his dad introduced him to a lot of classicals and stuff, and kind of like, so that's why he's got his classical training. I don't know, did he go school? Did he become like educated in bass? Did he do that before he joined Metallica?
He
I'm not
went
sure.
to he went to college for music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And his parents were very supportive of him once he got out of school. They were like, we'll give you a few years to get your music thing going, but if not, you're gonna have to get like a fucking straight 9 to 5. But they supported him for a long time and just let him do his music thing and thankfully.
So I wish that the rest of the band would kind of have dipped their toes into classical music to like to understand how he wrote songs and kind of evolve themselves without him kind of like honoring his like contribution to the band and so forth. But
Yeah.
that didn't happen. So
I think Kirk had influences like similar to that, and he learned from other players that were classically trained and stuff.
Yeah, he learned from Joe Satriani.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
right.
It's true.
David Bowie's guitar player learned a lot from, and not directly, but he listened to it a lot.
Yeah. All right. I guess we can wrap this up. If anybody's got anything else they want to add about Cliff, speak now or forever hold your piss.
I'm holding my piss, so I'm ready to go.
I wish I did see Metallica because the next to last concert they ever did was in Norway. So
That's right.
I wish my mom probably would have been a Metallica fan, so I could have been there. But
Yeah, would have been nice,
All right,
man. You could have
guys.
seen it.
Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for having me, man.
Tony
it's good
Dio,
having
you.
Count Ralphus, Ovi, Carlo. Don't forget to go check out Silence Equals Death and Faded Line. And look up Gartlock too. If you're into like real slamming death metal, like what would you say, Carlo? Like internal bleeding kind of shit like that.
Yeah, devourment, internal bleeding, kind of heavy,
Yeah,
real heavy shit.
Go
Suffocation.
check out
in a way.
Gartlock if you're into that
And
stuff.
you got an album out or?
Yeah, Gartlock's on Spotify and YouTube. Gartlock Slams on Instagram. Gartlock on YouTube. Yeah, we're on there.
Awesome. I'll check it out.
Absolutely. All right, fellas. Thanks for hanging. Rest in peace, Cliff Burton. Thank you all for watching and listening and putting up with my bullshit. Leave some comments about your experiences with Cliff and his music and his legacy and his influence, and what are your favorite of the 3 Cliff albums? What are some of your favorite Cliff songs? Comment right there below me. And we'll see you next week for another episode. I guess we're going to have to sit and figure out what the fuck we're going to do next week.
Yep.
All right, boys and girls, have a good night. Later from the Rock Fantasy Files.
Later.